Zuri Okonkwo had exactly $43 in her bank account, a work visa expiring in 60 days, and a double shift at Atlanta Medical Center that had just ended at 2 in the morning. She was too exhausted to notice the black sedan that had been following her for 3 blocks. The November wind cut through her thin scrubs as she hurried through the empty parking deck, her worn sneakers echoing against concrete. She needed to get home, send money to her siblings in Lagos, figure out how to afford the visa renewal that stood between her and deportation. The weight of it all pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. She didn't see the 2 men step out from behind a concrete pillar, but someone else did. Kyung Seok Bayek sat in his Mercedes 50 feet away, about to leave his restaurant's late inventory check, when his eyes tracked the movement. Professional, deliberate, predatory. He recognized the walk of men about to kill. His jaw tightened as he watched the beautiful woman with the exhausted stride walk directly into their path. The tiger tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse as he made a decision in less than a second. He started his engine. Zuri's hand fumbled for her car keys when she heard the footsteps behind her. Too close, too fast. Her nurse's instinct screamed danger before her conscious mind caught up. She spun around, keys clutched between her fingers like claws, and faced 2 men in dark clothes blocking her path. Zuri Okonkwo. The taller one's voice was cold, professional, wrong. Her blood turned to ice. How did they know her name? I think you have me confused with someone. You worked trauma last Thursday night. It wasn't a question. His hand moved inside his jacket. You were in the parking lot when... A car engine roared to life, cutting him off. Blinding headlights flooded the deck as a black Mercedes came out of nowhere, tires screaming as it swung between Zuri and the men. The passenger door flew open. Get in the car. The voice from inside was deep, calm, absolute. Not a request, a command that expected obedience. Zuri hesitated for half a second, her mind racing. Strange man in expensive car versus 2 men who knew her name and were reaching for weapons. Her survival instinct made the choice. She dove into the passenger seat. The car was already moving before she got the door closed. She caught a glimpse of her would-be attackers scrambling backward, their faces twisted in shock and fury, before the Mercedes shot out of the parking deck and into the empty Atlanta streets. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pressed herself against the door, finally looking at her rescuer, or captor. She couldn't tell which yet. The man driving was Korean, maybe mid-30s, with sharp features that could have been carved from stone. He wore an expensive black shirt with 4 buttons undone, revealing smooth skin and the edge of what looked like a tattoo on his neck. His hands on the steering wheel were steady, controlled like he did this every night. He didn't look at her, didn't speak, just drove with the focused intensity of someone executing a plan. Who are you? Zuri's voice came out shakier than she wanted. How did you... What just happened back there? Silence. I said, who are you? She tried again, stronger this time. And where are you taking me? His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, tracking something behind them. Still no answer. Zuri's hands clenched into fists. She'd survived moving to a new country alone, worked her way through nursing certification, sent money home every month while barely eating herself. She hadn't come this far to be intimidated by some silent stranger in a fancy car, rescuer or not. I know you can hear me, she snapped, her Nigerian accent thickening with fear and frustration. You tell me who you are right now, or I'm calling the police. No police. His voice was low, controlled, with barely a trace of an accent. He took a sharp turn onto Peachtree Street, still checking his mirrors. Those men were going to kill you. Police can't protect you from them. The words hit her like a physical blow. Kill me? Why would anyone want to kill me? I'm just a nurse, I don't... She stopped, her mind racing back to last Thursday night, the trauma case that had died on arrival, the men in the parking lot afterward, arguing in low voices near a black van. She'd seen their faces. Oh God, you saw something you shouldn't have. He stated it like a fact, not a question. Thursday night, hospital parking lot, 3 men, execution-style killing, body in the van. Zuri's mouth went dry. How do you know what I saw? Who are you? Someone who knows when witnesses are being hunted. He finally glanced at her, and his eyes were dark, intense, unreadable. And someone who just made you disappear before they could find you. Made me disappear? Her voice pitched higher. I have a job, an apartment, a life. You can't just... Your apartment was already compromised. They know where you live. He turned onto a quieter street lined with expensive townhouses. Your life as you knew it ended the moment you witnessed that killing. I'm just making sure you survive long enough to have a new one. The casual certainty in his voice terrified her more than anything else. This wasn't some spontaneous rescue. He'd planned this, knew things about her he shouldn't know. Let me out. She reached for the door handle. Right now. Let me out, or I'll jump from a moving car. He didn't slow down. You're smarter than that, Zuri Okonkwo. Nigerian immigrant, work visa expiring in 60 days, sending money home to 3 siblings in Lagos. You work double shifts, sleep 4 hours a night, and you're too proud to ask for help, even when you're drowning. She stared at him, shock giving way to anger. You've been watching me. You're one of them, aren't you? This is a trap. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Simple, factual, terrifying. Those men in the parking deck were from the Kozlov organization. Russian Bratva operating in Atlanta. They eliminate witnesses efficiently. He pulled into an underground garage beneath a sleek high-rise in Midtown. The security gate closed behind them with an ominous click. I'm taking you somewhere they can't reach you, he continued, parking in a spot marked Penthouse Private. You'll stay there until the threat is neutralized. No one will know where you are. You'll be safe. Safe? Zuri's laugh came out bitter, edged with hysteria. You kidnapped me, you stalked me. You know everything about my life, and you want me to feel safe. He turned off the engine and finally looked at her fully. Really looked at her. His gaze moved over her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. Not threatening, but assessing. Seeing her. Those men would have put 2 bullets in your head and dumped your body in the Chattahoochee River, he said quietly. Your family in Lagos would never know what happened to you. Your siblings would stop getting money. Your mother would wait for calls that never came. Tears burned behind Zuri's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Why do you care? Why save me? Something flickered across his face, too quick to read, but almost like pain. Because I know what it's like to lose someone who deserved better. He opened his door. And because you don't deserve to die for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He got out, came around to her side and opened her door. Not forcing her, just waiting. Zuri looked up at this silent, dangerous man who just upended her entire life. She should run, should scream, should fight. Instead, she thought about those men in the parking deck, about their cold eyes and ready weapons, about how they knew her name. She thought about her siblings waiting for money that would never come if she was dead. Slowly, she got out of the car. I don't even know your name, she whispered. He looked at her with those unreadable dark eyes, the tiger tattoo on his neck visible in the garage lighting. Kyung-seok, he finally said. My name is Kyung-seok Baek. Then he turned and walked toward the elevator, and after a moment's hesitation, Zuri Okonkwo followed the silent stranger, who claimed to be saving her life. The penthouse was nothing like Zuri expected. Not cold and sterile like she'd imagined a criminal's lair might be, but warm, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline, and subtle touches that spoke of someone who actually lived here. Books in Korean and English, a proper kitchen with well-used cookware, artwork that looked carefully chosen rather than decorator-selected. Guest room is down the hall. Kyung-seok moved through the space with quiet efficiency, setting down keys, checking his phone. Bathroom attached. Everything you need should be there. Zuri stood frozen in the entryway, still processing the surreal nightmare her life had become. For how long? As long as it takes. That's not an answer. He looked up from his phone, and she caught a flash of something. Was it amusement in those dark eyes? You ask a lot of questions. You don't answer any of them, she shot back, exhaustion making her bold. You show up out of nowhere, tell me people want to kill me, bring me to your home and expect me to just... What? Trust you? Yes. Simple. Absolute. Based on what? Based on the fact that you're alive. He pocketed his phone. If I wanted to hurt you, Zuri, I would have let those men finish what they started. Instead, I burned bridges with dangerous people to pull you out. That should tell you something about my intentions." The weight of his words settled over her. He'd risked something to save her. She could hear it in the careful control of his voice, see it in the tension he carried in his shoulders. "Who are you really?" she asked quietly. "And don't just give me your name. What are you?" Kyung-seok studied her for a long moment, as if deciding how much truth she could handle. "I own several legitimate businesses in Atlanta. Restaurants, a medical clinic, import-export. I also have connections to less legitimate operations. The men who wanted you dead are rivals. By protecting you, I've made a statement." "What kind of statement?" "That you're under my protection. That anyone who touches you answers to me." His jaw tightened. "In my world, that means something." Zuri's mind raced. Organized crime. Mafia. The words her grandmother would have used. She should be terrified, should demand he take her to the real police, should— "The medical clinic," she heard herself say. "You mentioned a medical clinic." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe respect. "Yes, private practice in Buckhead, high-end clientele, completely legitimate. I need to work." The words tumbled out. "My visa, my family. I can't just disappear. I have responsibilities, people depending on me." "I know." He moved to a cabinet, pulled out a bottle of what looked like expensive whiskey, poured 2 glasses, brought one to her. "Which is why tomorrow you'll start working at my clinic. Better hours than the hospital, better pay, and most importantly, I can keep you safe while you're there." Zuri stared at the glass in her hand, then at him. "You have this all planned out." "I make contingencies." He took a measured sip of his drink. "It's how I stay alive. And my apartment, my things, my people will collect what you need, quietly. As far as anyone knows, you left Atlanta. Night shift ended. You went home, packed, disappeared. Ghost." The clinical efficiency of it made her head spin. "You're asking me to erase my life. I'm asking you to stay alive long enough to build a new one." His voice softened, just slightly, temporarily. "Why?" The question burst out of her. "Why go to all this trouble for someone you don't even know? What do you gain from this?" Kyung-seok set down his glass, and for the first time since she'd met him, something vulnerable flickered across his face. "I had a sister, younger. She witnessed something she shouldn't have, and I—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "I wasn't there to protect her. She paid the price for my failure." "Oh." Understanding crashed over Zuri like a wave. "I remind you of her." "No." He looked at her fully, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. "You don't remind me of her. But you remind me that I have the power to save someone, and this time, I'm choosing to use it." The raw honesty in his words cut through her fear and confusion. This wasn't about her specifically. It was about his own redemption, but somehow that made it more believable than any elaborate lie would have been. "The men who want me dead," she said slowly. "When will they stop looking? When they think you're already gone, or when I make it clear that finding you isn't worth the war it would start?" His expression hardened back into stone. "I'm working on both." Zuri sipped the whiskey, felt it burn down her throat, warm her chest. Her mind spun through options, possibilities, escape routes, but the truth was inescapable. She was a Nigerian immigrant with an expiring visa, no family in America, and apparently a target on her back. This silent, dangerous man was offering protection, employment, survival. What choice did she really have? "I want to call my family," she said. "Let them know I'm okay." "No calls. Not yet. Phones can be traced, conversations intercepted." He must have seen the devastation on her face because he added, "I'll have money transferred to your family's account, more than you usually send. They'll know you're providing for them, even if they can't hear your voice." It wasn't enough, but it would have to be. "And my visa. In 60 days I'm supposed to renew, or I'm working on that too." He moved toward the hallway. "For now, rest. You've had a traumatic night. Tomorrow we'll discuss the details of your new position." Zuri watched him start to leave, then heard herself call out, "Kyung-seok." He paused, looked back. "Thank you." The words felt strange, thanking someone who'd essentially kidnapped her, but they were true. for saving my life." His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes softened. "Get some sleep, Zuri. You're safe here." After he left, Zuri stood alone in the beautiful penthouse prison, holding her whiskey and staring out at the glittering Atlanta skyline. Somewhere out there, men wanted her dead. Somewhere out there, her old life was ending without her permission. And somewhere in this penthouse, a silent Korean man with a tiger tattoo and a dead sister was trying to save her for reasons she didn't fully understand. She finished her drink, set down the glass, and walked toward the guest room. What else could she do? Tomorrow, she'd figure out if Kyung-seok Baek was her savior or her captor. Tonight, she'd just try to survive. 3 weeks passed in strange suspension. Zuri worked at Kyung-seok's medical clinic, a pristine facility in Buckhead that served Atlanta's wealthy elite. The work was easier than the hospital, the hours better, the pay almost obscenely generous. She sent triple her usual amount home to Lagos, and for the first time in years her siblings' responses included words like grateful and blessed, instead of desperate pleas for more. But she was living with a ghost. Kyung-seok was never there. She'd wake to find coffee already made, a note with the day's schedule in his precise handwriting. She'd return at night to an empty penthouse, sometimes finding dinner already prepared and still warm. He existed in the spaces between her life, present but invisible, protective but distant, until tonight. Zuri came home exhausted from a long clinic day to find him actually in the penthouse, sitting at the dining table with papers spread before him, a glass of whiskey at his elbow. He wore the same style, black shirt with buttons undone, revealing that tiger tattoo on his neck that she'd found herself thinking about more than she wanted to admit. "You're here," she said, surprise making her voice soft. He glanced up. "I live here." "Could have fooled me." She set down her bag, moved toward the kitchen. "I was starting to think you were a very elaborate hallucination." Was that almost a smile? It vanished too quickly to tell. "There's bibimbap in the fridge," he said, returning to his papers. "Made it this afternoon." Zuri paused. "You cook?" "My mother insisted I learn. Said a man who can't feed himself isn't really a man." He took a sip of whiskey. Traditional Korean mother. Very firm about these things. It was the most personal thing he'd shared since that first night. Zuri found herself curious, wanting to know more about this silent man who saved her life and then disappeared into his own home. She heated the bibimbap, brought it to the table. Instead of retreating to her room like she usually did, she sat across from him. He noticed. His eyes lifted from the papers, tracking her movement. "What are you working on?" she asked, mixing the rice and vegetables. "Strategy. Vague as always. For making you disappear more permanently." He set down his pen. "The Kozlov Bratva is still looking. They've connected your disappearance to me, which complicates things." Fear spiked through her. "Meaning?" "Meaning they think I'm hiding you because you saw something that could hurt me, not them." His jaw tightened. "They're wrong, but that misunderstanding is currently keeping you alive. So I'm safe. You're safer." His eyes held hers. Not the same thing. Zuri absorbed this, trying to ignore how his intense gaze made her heart beat faster. How long can this last? Me hiding, you protecting, this whole situation? Until I broker a treaty, or until I eliminate the threat entirely. He said it like he was discussing the weather, not murder. "And my visa? That expires in 40 days. Something flickered in his expression. Calculation mixed with something else. "I have a solution for that. You won't like it. Try me." Kyung-seok leaned back, studying her in that unnerving way he had, like he could see straight through to her bones. "Marriage. To me. Immigration marriage, completely legal, well documented. It would solve your visa problem and provide additional cover for why you're living here." The rice fell from her chopsticks. "You want to marry me? I want to keep you in the country and alive. Marriage accomplishes both." His tone was clinical, businesslike. "It would be temporary. Once the situation is resolved and your status is secure, we divorce. Quietly, amicably." Zuri's mind reeled. Marriage. To this silent, dangerous stranger who cooked her Korean food and disappeared for days and knew how to make people vanish. That's insane. That's practical. He poured himself more whiskey, offered her some. She took it. We're already living together. You work at my clinic. The story writes itself. Korean-American businessman meets Nigerian nurse, falls in love, marries quickly. Immigration will believe it because it's simple. Except we're not in love, Zuri pointed out, downing half the whiskey in one gulp. We barely know each other. You've spoken more words to me in the last 10 minutes than in the past 3 weeks combined. I'm not a man who wastes words. His eyes tracked her face, and something in his expression shifted, warmed maybe. But I notice things. You hum when you cook. Always the same song. Something in Yoruba. You arrange things in pairs. Shoes, cups, books. You can't sleep if it's too quiet, so you leave the TV on low. And you miss home so much it hurts, but you never complain because you think suffering is part of the immigrant bargain. Zuri's breath caught. He'd been watching her, learning her, seeing her in ways she hadn't realized. You think you're invisible, he continued, voice low. You think you have to shrink yourself to survive here. But I see you, Zuri. Every day, you're the strongest person in any room. The whiskey couldn't account for the heat flooding her chest, her face. Kyung-seok, the marriage would be real in legal terms only, he said, but his eyes said something different. Unless you wanted... He stopped himself, jaw clenching. That's not relevant. Unless I wanted what? Her heart hammered. He stood abruptly, moving to the windows, putting distance between them. You should think about the offer. You don't have to answer tonight. But Zuri stood too, following him, her nurse's instinct sensing pain beneath his controlled exterior. You were going to say something. Unless I wanted what? His shoulders tensed. Unless you wanted it to be more than legal fiction. The words hung between them, heavy with implications. Zuri stared at his back, at the rigid line of his spine, at the tiger tattoo on his neck that seemed to pulse with life in the city lights. Is that what you want? She whispered. Kyung-seok turned, and the look in his eyes stole her breath. Raw, hungry, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen from him. What I want is irrelevant. You're here because I'm protecting you, because you have no choice. Anything beyond that would be... He stopped, struggling with words that clearly didn't come easily. I won't take advantage of your situation. What if it's not taking advantage? Zuri stepped closer, her heart pounding. What if I... His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He checked it, and his expression went cold, dangerous. What? Zuri asked, fear replacing the heat between them. They found your apartment. His voice was ice. The Kozlovs. They know for certain now that you're alive, and they know I have you. What does that mean? Kyung-seok looked at her, and for the first time she saw genuine worry in his eyes. It means the war I was trying to avoid just became inevitable. The penthouse transformed into a fortress. Men Zuri had never seen before appeared. Korean, professional, armed. They spoke to Kyung-seok in rapid Korean, their body language screaming military precision. He answered in the same language, his voice carrying an authority that made everyone snap to attention. Zuri stood in the corner of the living room trying to stay out of the way, her mind racing. War. He'd said war like it was inevitable, like violence was already in motion and couldn't be stopped. Zuri. Kyung-seok appeared beside her, and she hadn't even seen him move. Come with me. He led her to his office, a room she'd never entered before. Inside, the walls were lined with monitors showing security feeds, weapons in a locked cabinet, papers and maps spread across a massive desk. This is what I didn't want you to see, he said quietly, watching her take it all in. This is what I actually am. She looked at the evidence of his real life, the violence, the control, the empire built on things she'd rather not think about. Why show me now? Because you deserve to know what you're marrying into. His voice was careful, controlled. The Kozlovs won't stop. They've made you a symbol. They can't let me protect a witness and keep their reputation. So they'll come for you, and when they do, I'll have to respond. With force. People will die. Yes. No apology. Just fact. But you won't be one of them. That's my only priority. Zuri's hands shook. This was real. Men with guns, actual war, death. Her life had gone from struggling immigrant to medical drama to action movie, and she couldn't process the whiplash. "I could go to the police," she whispered. "Tell them everything I saw, go into witness protection, get out of your world entirely." "You could." Kyung-seok didn't move. "Federal witness protection would relocate you, give you a new identity. You'd be safe. But you'd never see your family again. Never send money home. Never contact anyone from your old life. Your siblings' education would end. Your mother would never know what happened to you." His eyes held hers. "And I couldn't protect you anymore." The truth of it settled over her like a heavy blanket. There were no good choices, just different kinds of loss. "The marriage offer," she said. "It's still on the table." "Yes. And you'd really go to war to keep me safe?" "I already am." His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. "You're not a strategy to me, Zuri. You haven't been for a while now." Her breath caught. "What am I then?" "Something I didn't know I could still feel." The confession seemed torn from him. "Someone who makes me remember there are things worth protecting beyond territory and reputation." Zuri's heart hammered against her ribs. "Kyung-seok, boss." One of his men appeared in the doorway, speaking rapid Korean. Kyung-seok's expression went deadly. "What is it?" Zuri asked. "They're here, outside the building. Kozlov sent 20 men." He moved to the monitors, assessing the situation with cold efficiency. "They're making a statement." Terror shot through her. 20 men? How many do you have?" 8 in the building, more on the way." He was already moving, pulling weapons from the cabinet. "But I don't need numbers. I need strategy." "What are you going to do?" Kyung-seok looked at her, and the tiger tattoo on his neck seemed alive, dangerous. "I'm going to show them why people call me the Silent Tiger, why they should have left you alone." He pressed a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a small reinforced room. "You stay here. Bulletproof, soundproof panic room. No one gets through that door unless I'm dead." "No." Zuri grabbed his arm. "Don't go out there. There are too many of them. I'll be fine." His hand covered hers, warm and solid. "This is what I do, Zuri. This is who I am. I don't want you to die for me." Something in his expression softened. "Then give me a reason to survive." Before she could process what he meant, he pulled her close and kissed her. Not gentle, not tentative, desperate and claiming and full of everything he couldn't say. His hand cupped the back of her neck, and she melted into him, tasting whiskey and want and something deeper. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark, intense. "When this is over, I'm asking you again to marry me. Not for visas or protection, but because I want you in my life. Really, in my life. Kyung-seok, stay in the panic room. Don't come out until I come get you." He stepped back, his expression shifting back to cold calculation. "Promise me." "I promise." He sealed her inside, and through the monitors in the panic room, Zuri watched the war begin. Kyung-seok moved through his penthouse like death incarnate, silent, precise, lethal. His men coordinated with military efficiency, but it was him the Kozlovs should have feared. Every movement was calculated, every strike fatal. He didn't waste bullets or words, just eliminated threats with the cold efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The Silent Tiger wasn't just a nickname, it was a warning. Zuri watched through the feeds, her heart in her throat, as Kyung-seok took down men twice his size with brutal grace. He was terrifying and beautiful and absolutely in control, and she realized with stunning clarity that she trusted him completely. This man, who'd kidnapped her to save her, who cooked her Korean food and noticed she hummed when she was happy, who was willing to die to keep her safe. This dangerous, silent man had somehow become everything. The fight lasted 15 minutes. When it ended, the Kozlovs were retreating, half their men dead or injured, the rest running. Kyung-seok stood in his living room, breathing hard, blood on his shirt. Not his, she prayed. Surrounded by his men who looked at him with awe and loyalty. He spoke into his phone in Korean, sharp and commanding. Then he moved to the panic room and opened the door. Zuri launched herself at him, and he caught her, wrapping his arms around her tight. "You're alive," she breathed against his neck. "You're alive. I told you I'd survive." His voice was rough. "I had a reason to." She pulled back to look at him. This man who'd just waged war for her. "Ask me again." "What?" "The marriage. Ask me again." Kyung-seok's eyes widened, something like hope breaking through his controlled exterior. "Zuri Okonkwo, will you marry me?" "Yes." She kissed him, fierce and desperate. "Yes, I'll marry you." And outside, the Atlanta skyline glittered, indifferent to the lives that had just changed forever. The war ended not with more violence, but with a meeting. Kyung-seok called in favors from other Korean crime families, Russian organizations that the Kozlovs respected, even some Italian contacts from New York. The message was clear. Zuri Okonkwo was untouchable, and anyone who violated that protection would face unified retaliation. The Kozlovs backed down, not because they wanted to, but because continuing the fight would cost them everything. 3 days after the attack on the penthouse, Zuri married Kyung-seok Baek in a private ceremony at the courthouse. His mother attended, a tiny, fierce Korean woman who looked at Zuri with initial suspicion that gradually melted into cautious acceptance when she saw how her son looked at his new wife. "He doesn't smile," she told Zuri in heavily accented English after the ceremony. "Not since his sister died. But with you, I see something. Light, maybe. Hope." Zuri watched Kyung-seok across the room, speaking with the officiant, and saw what his mother meant. He still moved with predatory grace, still carried violence in his bones, but there was softness now, a warmth in his eyes when they found her. The legal marriage solved her visa problem immediately, but the real marriage, the one built in quiet moments and shared meals and slowly learning each other, took more time. 2 weeks after the courthouse, Zuri moved her things from the guest room into Kyung-seok's bedroom. He helped her unpack, carefully hanging her nursing scrubs beside his expensive shirts, arranging her hair products in the bathroom with the same precision he applied to everything. "This is strange," she said, watching him organize her belongings with meticulous care. "What is?" "You, being domestic. I've seen you kill men, and now you're folding my underwear." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "I contain multitudes," she laughed, the sound filling the space between them with warmth. "You contain something, that's for sure." That night, they lay in bed together for the first time, not touching, just existing in the same space. Kyung-seok stared at the ceiling, and Zuri watched him, learning the planes of his face in the darkness. "Tell me about your sister," she said softly. He went rigid. "Zuri, please, I want to know her, want to understand." For a long moment, silence. Then quietly, "Minseo." Her name was Minseo. She was 19, studying art, full of life and laughter and everything good. His voice cracked. "She witnessed a deal gone wrong. I didn't take it seriously enough, didn't protect her fast enough. They killed her to send me a message." Zuri's hand found his in the darkness. "I'm sorry. I killed them all afterward. Every single person involved." His tone was flat, emotionless. "But it didn't bring her back. Nothing brought her back. Is that why you saved me? Because you couldn't save her?" "At first, yes." He turned his head to look at her. "But now it's because I can't imagine my life without you in it. You brought light back to this dark world I live in, Zuri. You made me remember what it feels like to care about something beyond revenge and territory." She moved closer, and he pulled her against him, wrapping her in warmth and safety. "I love you," she whispered against his chest. "I don't know when it happened, but I do." His arms tightened around her. "Sarange, Sarange," he murmured. "I love you too." They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, until sleep claimed them both. The months that followed brought transformation neither expected. Kyung-seok began transitioning his operations, moving toward legitimate businesses and away from the violence that had defined his life. Not completely. Some ties couldn't be cut, but enough that Zuri could breathe easier. She thrived at the clinic, her skills and compassion making her indispensable. Patients requested her specifically, and Kyung-seok watched with quiet pride as she built a reputation independent of him. His mother became a regular presence, teaching Zuri Korean cooking and clucking over her like she was already a beloved daughter. "You're good for him," she told Zuri one afternoon while they made kimchi together. "You make him human again." Zuri's family in Lagos rejoiced at her marriage, her stability, her success. She was finally able to video call them regularly, showing them her new life without fear. Her siblings' education continued, secured by her work and Kyung Seok's generous support. "You married up," her mother teased during one call. "A rich Korean man who looks at you like you hung the moon. Don't let him go." "I won't," Zuri promised, catching Kyung Seok's eye across the room. "I really won't." 6 months after the courthouse wedding, they had a second ceremony. This one a celebration blending Korean and Nigerian traditions. Kyung Seok wore traditional hanbok, Zuri a stunning Nigerian gil, and outfit in rich purple and gold. They exchanged vows again, this time surrounded by both their families, by the community they were building together. When Kyung Seok kissed her as husband and wife for the second time, the room erupted in cheers. Korean and Nigerian and American all mixed together, just like them. That night, in their bedroom overlooking Atlanta, Zuri traced the tiger tattoo on Kyung Seok's neck while he held her close. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Saving me that night, everything that came after." He caught her hand, pressed it against his heart. "My only regret is all the time I wasted before you. You brought me back to life, Zuri. You're my redemption." "You're mine too," she whispered. "You saved me in every way a person can be saved. We saved each other." He kissed her softly. "And I'll keep choosing you, every single day for the rest of my life." Outside, Atlanta glittered with possibility. Inside, two souls who'd found each other against impossible odds held tight to the love they'd built from chaos. The silent tiger had finally found his peace, and Zuri Okonkwo had finally found her home. The medical clinic in Buckhead had expanded twice, now employing 15 staff members and serving hundreds of patients monthly. Zuri managed it all with the same fierce competence she brought to everything, her reputation as an exceptional nurse preceding her throughout Atlanta. Kyung Seok stood in the doorway of her office, watching her work, still marveling that she was his. She'd changed everything, softened his edges without diminishing his strength, brought light without naivety, loved him despite and because of who he was. She looked up, caught him watching, smiled that radiant smile that never failed to undo him. Staring again? Always. He moved into the office, closed the door. "I have something for you." "It's not my birthday. Can't I give my wife a gift?" He pulled a folder from his jacket. "Open it." Inside were citizenship papers. Approved, processed, finalized. Zuri Okonkwo Bayek was now officially a United States citizen. Tears filled her eyes. "Kyung Seok, you're home now. Really home. No more visa worries, no more uncertainty." He cupped her face. "You belong here with me." She kissed him, fierce and grateful. "I love you." "Sarange," he murmured against her lips. "Always." That evening, they sat on their penthouse balcony, watching the sunset paint Atlanta gold and crimson. Zuri's hand rested on her still flat stomach, cradling the secret they'd just confirmed that morning. "Our daughter will have the best of both worlds," Kyung Seok said softly, his hand covering hers. "Korean and Nigerian. American. Ours. She'll be extraordinary," Zuri agreed. "Just like her father. Just like her mother." He pulled her close. "Thank you for getting in the car that night." Zuri laughed, the sound full of joy and life and love. "Thank you for ordering me too." And as the sun set on Atlanta, the silent tiger and his queen planned their extraordinary future together.